Hey everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. You know who it is, and it's time for our weekly track roundup, where I go into what I felt were the best and worst tracks of the week. God damn, was this a busy week? So many tracks. Some of them even slipped by me. Some of them I didn't even make into this segment because there were just so many songs to mention, so many songs to talk about. This just was a huge week for singles. Before we get into the tracks, I want to say the shirts that we've been selling, they are gone. They are sold out. But everybody who bought a shirt, your shirt is getting processed. Your shirt is coming soon. I chose the vinyl winners of the people who bought shirts. Logan from Michigan and Hannah from Ohio. You are getting, I'm sending out some copies of Death Grip's EP, the Interview 2016 EP, and I'm sending out a copy of Street Sect's latest album. So there you go. So those records are on the way. Amazon Associates link down there in the description. So if you want to support this segment, if you live in the US, hit that link. Anything you buy on Amazon, we get kickback from it. Does not add to your overall price. And finally, I want to mention the Symbol app, who are sponsoring this video. Very soon, this coming weekend, actually not this weekend now, this coming weekend, I'm going to be doing an AMA on the app. I believe I probably should be doing it on like Friday night or Saturday. More details to come. Follow me on the app over there at the Needle Drop account over here. You can see the picture of the account here. And make sure to get the app. Link down there in the description. It's a great place where you can share music, kind of formatted and looks a little bit like Instagram, but you're sharing songs and talking about music on there rather than just kind of simply, sharing pictures. So, it's a good music sharing app. Get that freaking app. Follow me over there. AMA coming soon over there on the app. And so stay tuned. Stay tuned on that info. Now let's get into the tracks. Okay, let's rip the Band-Aid off and get into the worst tracks of the week first. I'm going to kick things off with the new Remy Ma song. Yet another Nicki Minaj diss. A lot of people earlier, like a week ago, were really hot over her Skeeter track, which was also a Nicki Minaj diss. Didn't talk about it in one of these segments, but I'll kind of talk about these two tracks here and now. Both of these songs are really boring, really tired in my opinion. If these songs were about anybody else, everybody and their mom would be reacting to this like, oh, her bars do not sound that good. Her performance is weak. Doesn't sound like she practiced. This beat is old as fuck. I have not heard anybody rap on this beat since like 2006, but I'm not from New York. If you're from New York, you probably hear this beat at least twice a day. But from anybody who's not from New York, you may not even know where the fuck this beat comes from, but this beat is old as fucking dirt. So I'm not into hearing anybody rap over this beat in 2017, number one. And aside from the lines about Nicki Minaj's popped ass, there's nothing really all that exciting about the track. It's a pretty mild diss song, but the problem with today is that diss tracks are so subliminal, diss tracks are so implied, diss tracks are so kind of hidden and in the shadows that when somebody actually hears someone mention someone by name, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And with that being the standard, anybody can drop a hot diss track. You know what I'm saying? So this one, I don't really think it's that great of a diss track, especially this new track over here. Another one I think is even weaker. This beef is already tired as fuck. Nicki Minaj is not going to respond. She's on another completely different relevancy level than Remy Ma at this point. There's really no need for her to respond, and she writes pop rap. It's not like she's down there in the underground, in the grime, fraternizing with the battle scene in the way that Remy Ma is. Nicki Minaj is just writing chart-topping stuff. So if she doesn't respond, I'm not going to be surprised. It's probably not going to happen. Though, again, I did think some of those bars about her ass were funny, but, beyond that, there's not really much too exciting about these tracks. It just kind of seems like a case of people having a warped perspective of diss songs because it's been a while since we've had some good ones. But going on from there, we have a new track from a band by the name of D's Nuts. These guys are bringing rap rock back with a vengeance. It is giving me PTSD style flashbacks of my days in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and I want it to stop, please. But, you know, if you're looking for something that you can listen to a little ironically, please give this a shot. Moving on from there, Thundercat has a bonus track off of his latest record titled High. You have to be high to have wanted to make this track with Mac Miller because, you know, it's a nice, smooth, sweet, slightly improvisational, jazz fusion little piece. But Mac Miller singing on this thing is terrible. Totally understand why it would not make it onto the record. Mac Miller fans are probably crazy for it, but the singing, not good. The lyrics, even worse. Yeah, I mean, as much as I was underwhelmed by some of the record, by some of Thundercat's album, really happy this track is not an official album track. Really happy it's a bonus track. But moving on from there, that's not even the worst track of the week. That would be handed off to Lil Uzi Vert, Quavo, and Travis Scott, the song Go Off, which is going to be on the new Fast and Furious soundtrack. This track is trash. This is such garbage. Like, all of their lyrics seem like they were written by the marketing team over at Fast and Furious, because it's just so many stupid bars about racing and being in your car and getting to the finish line. It's such promotional bullshit. And the beat is bland as hell. The vocals are so processed, so there's no flavor. There's no body to any of the vocals. This song is garbaggio. Like, it's been a while since I've heard a rap song that was this trash, that was, you know, basically just a commercial for a movie, you know. I guess a lot of the tracks on the Suicide Squad soundtrack were pretty bad because they kind of suffered from the same problem, but this is even worse. Like, at least some of the songs on the Suicide Squad soundtrack were a little edgy. This track over here is pure commercial, like, trash that would perfectly fit into a shitty movie about cars racing around, but I digress. So there you go. Worst track of the week, in my opinion. Let's move on to the tracks that I wanted to mention, wasn't crazy about, but they weren't terrible. Kind of meh on these tracks. Chaz Bundick meets the Mattson 2 Disco Kid. It's not bad. I mean, I'm not really all that crazy about what it sounds like these guys are doing on this collaborative project so far from the teaser tracks. Just kind of sounds like some swanky, funky instrumental music from the late 70s, early 80s. It's okay. It's all right. You know, it's played well, it's produced well, certainly captures the nostalgia of that era, but there's nothing really all that urgent or exciting about it, but it's listenable. It's listenable. Moving on from there, 6 Organs of Admittance Adoration song. This is a nice, very folky, spacey kind of ballad that I thought was okay. Dial 666-8100, Uber SPLIFF to GATWICK. This is a new electronic single out on Ninja Tune Records. Kind of funky, little textured, got a bit of a techno vibe to it. But again, not really all that fiery or exciting in my opinion, but it's got a good groove to it. The Shins painting a hole. The Shins continue to come out with songs that would have been shoulder to shoulder with some of the bolder artists of the 2000s when it comes to the indie side of things. The Shins, for whatever reason, 10 years ago were coming out with some of the sleepiest music in indie. Now it seems like they've waken up and they're like, hey man, we're going to come out with really edgy indie stuff. And it's kind of just like 10 years too late. Back when there were bands that were way more interesting than you guys were writing stuff that sounded like you wanted to take a nap. And now all of a sudden you want to be Wolf Parade. Now all of a sudden you want to be Modest Mouse. Now all of a sudden you want to be one of those, you know, edgier sort of like, yeah, man, we're writing upbeat in your face indie stuff. And it's just like, why now? Why now? Why, when this sound is at its least relevant, do you decide to wake up and do something kind of lively? It's okay. I certainly like it more than a lot of that sleepier stuff they put out back in the day, but it just seems like too little too late, I guess. Moving on, Lorde, Green Light. It's not terrible, but I'm officially not excited for this Lorde album now, because even though her vocals do still have a somewhat unique quality to them, it sounds like over this really generic dance pop instrumental, Lorde is giving up what has made her music at least, you know, slightly left field of most of what comes out in the mainstream, most of what seeps into the top 40. This just seems so much more lowest common denominator. It just seems so much more commercial, just seems so much more formulaic than what she's done up until this point, which is kind of odd considering that when she originally dropped her last album, so many artists out there were copying her. I think there was still an opportunity for her to continue and trailblaze forward in such a way and continue with the sound that she had, because everybody wanted to do what she was doing, you know, for at least a couple years, because her sound was so popular, her sound was so hot. And now it seems like she's turned around and watered her sound down for something to achieve something that's just way less memorable. When in fact, you know, she could have continued leading the way and influencing her contemporaries. Instead, she's doing the opposite, I think, on this track. Mike Will Made It has a new track out titled Gucci On My with 21 Savage, YG, and Migos. This is kind of one of those very stripped back, very minimal pop rap singles that are okay. You know, it's not one of the more amazing ones that I've ever heard. You know, certainly I like each guest verse on this track. It's okay. You know, even 21 Savage sort of comes on and does his thing. But the beat, I didn't really, you know, feel all that enamored with. And the hook, too, felt kind of lifeless. You know, if you're going to come out with a song that's this quiet, that's this laid back, the hook has got to fucking pop. And this Gucci On My hook is not really all that great. So I think the song kind of falls flat on its face a little bit, but I can sort of appreciate what they were going for. Moving on from there, Deadmau5 has a track out called HaxPigMeow that has a bit of an 8-bit vibe to it from a new project that sort of seems to imply that this is like older stuff of his. Could be totally wrong on that, but I think this track is really fun, quirky, has some fun melodies on it too, so check that out. And Coldplay has a new single out, Hypnotized, that's decent. You know, it's okay. Definitely not one of the worst songs I've heard from them in a while, but, you know, it's one of their spacey, airy, very ethereal ballad type songs, something that sounds like it could have been on Ghosts, but slightly more enjoyable. Pile has a new track out called Leaning on a Wall, which I only place in this section of the segment because it's just such a winding, twisting, emotionally heavy song that I'm yet to fully make heads or tails of. I haven't quite decided if I think it's like messily arranged or if everything comes together in this really epic, climactic, emotionally powerful way. Could be either or. You know, I do give it to these guys on the lyrics. They seem to tell a very serious and heavy story in the song, and it seems like they're getting ambitious. You know, they're not just simply kind of that experimental rock, post-hardcore, kind of punky Boston band anymore, especially on this song. Seems like they're writing something that's almost kind of progressive in a way. So if you're into that band, make sure to check this track out. Don't let it slip by you. And we will finish this segment off with a few more. Panther Du Prince has an ambient version of the song Islands in the Sky from his last record. Apparently he's coming out with a record of ambient versions from that album. And it sounds pretty sweet on the ears, very pleasant. Moving on from there, we have a new track from the Drums called Blood Under My Belt. Seems like the Drums have kind of taken a few steps back on the production end of things. This track sounds really hollow, not really a whole lot of weight or punch to it, unfortunately. Still has kind of that post-punky sound, but it seems like the band is completely refused to progress at all on this new track. I sort of wonder if there's going to be any reason at all to sort of, you know, keep track of where the band is going next, because it seems like they've totally rejected the idea of progressing or trying something new. And finally, the Beach Fossils, another band that sort of has that kind of twangy indie surf rock sort of sound, but maybe not quite as much on this new track over here, have a new single out that it's titled this year. Kind of underwhelmed by it because it seems like they've completely embraced the dream pop side of their sound while just tossing the whole post-punk vibe in the garbage, which I think gave them a little bit of edge over a lot of the bands that were doing kind of that dreamy beach rock thing. Now it just sounds a little a little too bland in my opinion. It's not a terrible track, but nothing all that exciting about it. Let's move into what I felt were the best tracks of the week, favorite tracks of the week. Quite a few songs to dish out to you guys over here. Sharon Van Etten has a wonderful Skeeter Davis cover of the song The End of the World, which is absolutely beautiful, wonderful, just dreamy, and spacious ballad. Sharon's vocals do this track loads of justice. Love the sort of vintage melody of the song, too, that she does a lot of justice as well. Future Islands, in their typical driving, very passionate synth pop fashion, have a new track out titled Ran, which is awesome as fuck. Lots of energy, lots of, again, fire, and the band's lead singer runs like a motherfucker throughout the music video here, pretty much showing to us how he stays in fighting fit when he's going out on stage and swinging those shoulders and pa-pa, showing off, that amazing, pec piece that he has over here. Very wide chest, awesome shoulders. That guy is built. Moving on from there, Father John Misty has another very lyrically sharp piece of music, teasing toward his new album. This track has a bit of a piano rock vibe to it that I thought was really good. Total entertainment forever. Loving this track a lot. This band called Succumb has a new track out coming through and teasing toward a new album on the Flenser. This track is titled Survival, and it's an awesome mix of death metal, black metal, punk and post-hardcore. It's just a lot of genres sort of coming together in a way that I haven't quite heard them twisted before. Of course, there are a lot of bands mixing these sounds, mixing these worlds together. Deaf Heaven being one, for example. There's a lot of groups out there sort of pulling together the post-rock world, the black metal world, the death metal world, the punk world, and these guys sort of seem to be taking a slightly different approach with it. Sounds really aggressive. It's a little more on the metal end of the spectrum, but those are those very primal and those very sort of chest-beating punk elements are definitely there in the mix. So liking that a lot. HMLTD, or formerly known as Happy Meal Unlimited, this really great, wonderful post-punk band that I have been enamored with ever since I heard their last single, has a new music video and single out titled To the Door. And this is like some crazy fucking old school Public Image Limited, or old school Bauhaus, or old school The Pop Group. There's something really frightening and freaky and off the wall about how these guys come together with this post-punk sound that I like a lot. And there are a few passages in this song where they go into a weird sort of electronic thing. There's definitely something contemporary about it. It's not just an exercise in nostalgia. And the band's energy, the band's look, the band's, I guess, sort of will to sort of poke and prod at I guess kind of sexual taboos and stuff in their lyrics, and in this music video that they just come out with are really fucking sharp and really out there, really left field. Loving how sort of raw that the band sort of comes off, and edgy too, I guess. Moving on from there, Adult. Every single I hear from this forthcoming Adult album, I'm really liking it, even though I was kind of skeptical going into it because each track features a different guest vocalist. But every song I've heard so far is just this really fucking dark, very sharp, and very hard-nosed experimental dance techno shit with just crazy wild vocal performances over it. And this song featuring Shannon Funchess, probably not pronouncing that correctly, the song We Chase the Sound is no different. So I don't know, I hope they continue on this wave over here. The album is just coming out just around the corner, I believe, and just really excited to sort of hear what it holds, because again, every track I've heard so far is fucking great. Moving on from there, WAVVES has 2 new tracks out titled You're Welcome and Daisy. Surprisingly, I really like this track, or these tracks. WAVVES, to me, this is one of the better examples I've heard of kind of playing that punk sound, playing that garage rock sound. It's obviously got a rock sort of foundation to it, but the way that Nathan produced the track, the way that Nathan sort of included electronics into the track, it sort of still has a visceral rock energy to it, but it sounds fresher. It sounds more modern. It sounds like it's on to the next thing. You know, it sounds like he's doing something a little more adventurous with it, which is great because, you know, I think we need more people in rock taking risks, trying new things, trying to take contemporary sounds, fuse it into the genre while keeping the original spirit of rock music, you know, not turning it into whatever crap Imagine Dragons are doing. You know what I mean? So it's great that Nathan is, I think, doing this more than I think a lot of his contemporaries in rock music are. Even if some of the lyrics, especially on Daisy, they're a little corny. You know, Nathan's not the fucking greatest lyricist in the world, but I like the sound of these tracks. It sounds like he's doing something cool, and certainly much fresher than, you know, a lot of what his past couple of albums have been. Like, you know, just like the grunge worship and all that. You know, it's so much better for him to be doing something that's a little bit more in the future than it is like, hey, let's just redo the fucking 90s. You know, it's like, so hell yeah to WAVVES on those two new tracks. Moving on from there, Laura Marling has a beautiful new ballad out. Nothing, Not Really. You don't want to say too much about it because her new record's coming out around the corner. I really want to review it. Really excited about it. Think it could be her best. Think it could be her best because it sounds like she's putting out some of her best ballads that I've heard her drop as far as teaser tracks. Moving on from there, Wesley Gonzalez of Let's Wrestle fame, which a lot of people probably have not heard of the band Let's Wrestle. They were this really great indie rock band from the UK for a while. Really funny, quirky lyrics, a lot of personality. Unfortunately, when they came through with their sort of big commercial record, it was a bit of a flop in my opinion. But Wesley Gonzalez, the band's lead singer, has come through with a really sassy sort of solo piece with some driving sequence drums and some funny lyrics. Like everything that I liked about Let's Wrestle's music is here, but it's in more of a singer-songwriter context. So I'm just enjoying what he's doing here and looking forward to sort of seeing if he can pull off a full album of this kind of stuff. Moving on from there, White Reaper, the world's best American band. White Reaper, in my opinion, has never been like one of the most standout bands out there in the scene. Like they've always had kind of a bit of a run-of-the-mill garage punk sound to their music. Though I have liked some of their tracks in the past, but this new song over here has a bit of a hard rock edge to it from the late 70s and the early 80s, and the energy on the track is great. The grooves and the guitar lines on the track are sharper. Seems like there's a better focus on the lyrics and just the hook writing. Like the band is writing something that has like a bit of an old soul to it, but they kind of still have that grimy, garagey edge to it. You know, they're sort of bringing the past into the future a little bit on this track. I like the energy of the song. I like the writing of the song. And I like that this title of the track was almost like a challenge for them to write a song that was kind of in this bombastic arena rock-like tone. But of course, you know, still kind of keeping that punk vibe in the song. And I like the track a lot. I think it's one of the best singles that they've come through with in a while. So if they can come through with an album that maybe it doesn't all sound the same as this, but, you know, is taking risks sort of in this same vein, or, you know, is coming through with a bit more of a unique energy to it, that'd be fantastic. It'd be really exciting to hear the band sort of, you know, try something new on this forthcoming record. Moving on from there, the band Sólstafir has a new album coming out very soon. Typically they're doing a bit of a sludge metal thing, bit of a post-rock thing. This track, I'm not quite sure how to categorize it, honestly. There's a lot of stuff going on here. I mean, the drum beat's kind of danceable. The vocals are super passionate. The instrumentation, the rock instrumentation is pretty grand. It's epic, but also straightforward. It's danceable, but, you know, it's not just kind of this happy-go-lucky kind of thing. Like, there's some serious urgent passion to the song, too. Again, very hard to define. Sounds like they're playing with so many different things at once, but yet it all comes together so well. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm excited to hear if the band, you know, can effectively pull together even more surprising arrays of sounds on their forthcoming record. And finally, I'm going to shout out the new Los Angeles Police Department track, which is a beautiful, elegant piece of piano pop. Great ballad there, and very fun, smoky music video that pairs with it that I thought was pretty good. And that's it, guys. Those are the best and worst tracks of the week. I told you guys, a lot of fucking tracks this week. This was a big week for tracks. Hopefully next week I don't have to load you guys down with as many songs, but I thought I came through with a lot of solid recommendations on this one, okay? You guys are the best. Catch you in the next video. Forever.